Okay, so welcome everybody. My name is Paula Rodriguez de la Vega, and I am your Bat Friends Science, what is it called? Citizen Science Project Coordinator. My other background is as a coordinator for the Okanagan Community Bat Program, and I've been doing that for about 3.5 years, so I'm pretty familiar with bats and how they interact with more the community urban interface. So hopefully I can give you some information about bats and this great program that we've developed to be able to bring NatureKids on board with. So first, maybe we'll just quickly go through and see who's here, and maybe if you can say your name and who you're with, which club you're with. So we'll start with Molly. So Molly's here.
Okay, I'm just playing around. I just got you big, and now you're smaller.
Uh-oh.
I can't see myself, but that's okay.
Okay.
So I live in the Shuswap, or north of Vernon, near Seminar. And I've been with NatureKids for a bit. I was in Vancouver with NatureKids, and I enjoy, I also work for a Conservation Trust Foundation Education.
Great.
With their wild, I'm Wild BC facilitator. And I have a son who's 10.
Great. Cynthia.
Yeah, it's so nice to finally see your face, Paula.
I can't see you. That's not fair.
Okay, just for a moment, but it's really a bad hair day, so you gotta forgive me, okay? Go.
Hi.
It is so nice to be on this call tonight. I've had the privilege of working with Christina and Paula on this journey towards getting this bat project up and running, and really looking forward to that. Bats being one of my personal favorites in the mammal world, the flying mammal world. So I'm Cynthia. I'm the president for NatureKids BC, also wearing another hat at the moment. And I am a veteran, I guess, for the NatureKids process. And if we look at it in pieces, I started out for the first 8 years as Eastern Fraser Valley club leader. So that was an amazing journey for me, a wonderful experience, loved it. And ever since, almost up to the 14-year mark, I've been working on the board. So it's been a huge commitment for me, a deep passion, and I'm very excited to be here tonight.
Great. Thanks, Cynthia. Natasha, if you can unmute yourself. There you go.
Fabulous. Good evening, everyone. I am Natasha. I'm based in Prince George. Myself and my friends Vanessa and Dawn have revitalized the Prince George Nature Club, which is super exciting. I think it was dormant for 2 to 3 years, so we've had a really good interest. I'm not sure if more people have just had kids up here or if it's just sort of a different demographic of families that are moving into town, but there's been some really great excitement about the club being restarted. We had our very first session about 2 weeks ago, and we had 12 kids and 8 parents come out, and we have some really adorable photos up on our Facebook page. So really looking forward to getting this kicked off. This will be a great resource, I think, that we can bring into it. I'm also in a new position with BC Parks, so really hoping to connect with some of the community bat program for my day job as well. And exploring the north has been really eye-opening. I came from the coast, so to be brought into the center of the province and see such a huge and dynamic and stunning landscapes has been a really interesting and beautiful change. I miss the coast, but it's beautiful here too. So excited to explore with our new families with the new club.
All right, thank you. And who else do we have? Michelle. Am I saying that right?
Nope. Okay, it's Michal.
Michelle, sorry.
And I'm the leader of the Delta Home Learners Club, and we have a lot of bats in Delta, so we're looking forward to doing a couple of bat things before we shut down our club, which is happening soon too.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. And who else do we have? Somebody that I can see, Peter Kickham.
Sorry, yeah, that's my husband's name. I'm Britta. I'm
Hey, great to see you.
hi. Sorry, I was a bit late coming in. I was just having issues with the link. But anyway, here I am. I don't know what the intro was, just saying who we are or...
Yeah, and which club you're with.
Yeah, so I'm with NatureKids Victoria, and yeah, we're hoping to find some time to do some bat stuff. Last Explorer Day was really fun. We went to a Gary Oak celebration, and we did some invasive removal, and the kids really liked that because it was very hands-on, and they felt like they could really make a difference. So that was good, and we have a beach cleanup coming up, so we'll see if we can fit in some bat stuff too.
Great. Wonderful. Welcome. Glad you can make it.
Thanks.
Ashley, we can't hear you. Ashley, Skeena Community Bat Program Coordinator. Woohoo! All right. Welcome. Thanks for coming. And Leslie. I don't know if we can hear her.
Hi. I'll do the same. I turn my video off sometimes just because the connectivity is a little bit more reliable if you're not also looking at everybody.
Okay.
I am one of the co-leaders with the Vancouver Club, along with Deborah Simpson. And I think I took over just after Molly was the Vancouver Club for a short period of time. So I've been doing that for a few years. And then I'm also on the board of the organization, and I've been doing that for the past 2 years. And so it's, yeah, this is kind of fun. I don't think we had intros and whatnot last year during the webinar. So it's nice to see the other club leaders. It's great.
Totally. Yeah.
It's great. Wonderful. Am I missing anybody? I see a blank dot in one of them, but I don't know who that is.
It's probably me, Paula. It's Orville.
Hi, Orv. Thanks for coming.
Yep. It's a great opportunity to see what you've been doing. I had a preliminary look at it. It looks great. So I work for the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy as a bat conservation specialist.
Okay. You cut out there at the very end. Don't know if anybody else can hear you. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
So I work for the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change Strategy, and I'm a bat conservation specialist.
Great. Thank you. Did I miss anybody else? I think that's it. Christina!
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Christina. I'm the program coordinator. So I'm really excited to launch this tonight. Paula and I have been working on this for a couple of months now. So we're ready to part the veils and show you all the great stuff that we've been doing. So,
All right. Thanks, Christina. Okay, so to get started, welcome everybody. Thanks for all your introductions. And yeah, really excited to introduce the Bat Friends Citizen Science Project. The reason we chose bats is that they are really important. They're also in trouble, and people, including NatureKids, can do a lot to help. So why are bats important? Bats, primarily in this area anyway, in British Columbia and Canada, we have microbats, which are the bats that eat solely insects and arachnids, so small spiders and such. And because they manage insect populations for the agricultural and forest industry, they eat a lot of pests, insect pests that eat and destroy some of the agricultural plants and also trees in the forest industry. They're worth billions of dollars in North America in their service that they do towards the economy. They're also important because bats fertilize plants in that they're guano because they eat so many insects, and then they defecate in different areas. So they eat primarily in wetlands and wet areas, wetlands, lakes, rivers, aquatic ecosystems, and then they move up to their roost areas, which are generally a little bit uplands of those wet areas. And so as a result, they move nitrogen and nutrients from the aquatic ecosystems to the dryland ecosystems. And so they fertilize and move those nutrients around. And they're also really important to tourism and have proven to bring some tourism dollars into the economy. This is a photo of Peachland and some of the activities that happen there, because they have a colony of little brown bats and Yuma bats that live in the attic. In other areas, more tropical, they have fruit bats, or the microbats, which are the big ones. And they obviously go for the fruits. They pollinate fruits, flowers, and they also spread seeds. So we thank bats for bananas, chocolate, figs, and a whole bunch of other different fruits that are out there. Bats are also really important in that they've made medical contributions, so you wouldn't think so, but vampire bats, which there's only 3 species in the world out of 1,200 species, are vampire bats. They did some studies on them to try and figure out how they get the blood out of their victims, their hosts, and as a result, they developed blood thinners, which are really important to the medical industry. And vampire bats, by the way, do not kill their victims, so I shouldn't actually call it victims or hosts. They just, not like in the movies, but they don't have, you know, the big fangs like you see in the movies. They actually just have 2 little incisors, their front teeth, and they cut. Usually they make a little cut on the, usually says sleeping rooster or some kind of a cow, for example, usually near the foot. And then the blood thinners that they have they have anticoagulants in their saliva, which lets the blood run, and then they actually lick it up. So they don't bite and suck the blood out just like that. They just lap it up. So one question that you might have from your NatureKids is vampire bats. And that's one that is a big myth. They don't suck blood like that. They just lap it up once they have, like mosquitoes, they make a little cut, the blood runs, and they lap it up. And they get full almost right away, and then they fly off, and the anticoagulant stops working, and they usually do not harm their hosts a whole heck of a lot. Bats are in trouble. As many of you have heard, white nose syndrome is what has come into the picture most recently. It has killed billions of bats in eastern United States and Canada. And I don't know if I move my mouse, can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. Anyway, so eastern United States and Canada is where most of the white nose syndrome has occurred, and billions of bats have died. The fear now is that 2 years ago, there was in Seattle an occurrence of white nose syndrome, and we are afraid that it's gonna make its way up into British Columbia. So white nose syndrome is a fungus that attacks the bats during winter in their hibernacula when they're sleeping. And it's a fungus that does not affect humans. It only affects bats. It attacks their skin and their fur, and it wakes them up from their deep sleep when they're hibernating. And as a result, the bats need to groom the fungus off of them. And when they wake up in winter, as a result, they get hungry and thirsty, but in winter there's no water, there's no insects, so they end up starving to death, amongst other things, that pneumonia and other side effects that the fungus also has.
Do you know if that is specialized still, like is it still little brown myotis, or is it now spreading to Yumas and others?
There are other species, but I don't have the list of the ones that are affected. I don't know, Orv is on the line. I don't know if he wants to pitch in, but there are a few species that are affected by the white nose syndrome.
Yeah, it's Orville. So in BC, the little brown myotis, the northern myotis, as a direct result from white nose syndrome. And also UMAP bats and long-legged myotis as well can get it. Several of the other species, like silver-haired bats and a few others, can carry the disease, but they don't get it. So they carry the fungus, but they don't actually get the disease. And we have several other species that are Western species only, so they haven't been exposed. We expect they might get it, some of them, but we don't know yet. Whitenosesyndrome.org is a website that's got a great summary of which species get it and which species don't.
Thank you.
Thank you, Orville. So other reasons that the bats are also in trouble, urbanization, habitat destruction, windmills also have wind energy, and alternative energy has also proven to affect the bats as they're migrating through and does kill them, unfortunately. Cats actually are one of the main predators. I get a lot of calls about cats that have brought in bats that are injured because they caught them. So we all also trying to get people to keep their cats indoors if they have bats roosting around their place. Extermination, whether it's on purpose, and this is just a fake photo of somebody pretending to exterminate the bat with some Raid, but it is that likely happens. We get lots of people calling as well that are really concerned about bats roosting right outside their door and don't like them and want them out of there. Unintentional deaths, such as this bug trap that is sticky trap that also will get the bat's wings to stick, and then eventually they die. And then the last one is house. I can't see that picture, but it's buildings that are deteriorating, getting old, and get taken down. How can we help them? Well, NatureKids is trying to help bats by putting together this Bat Friends Citizen Science project. The way that we've developed it is we have created 4 different Explorer Days for our leaders to be able to put together and lead the kids through. It goes through from introduction all the way through to doing bat detective, bat counts, getting involved with that, to stewardship, to the last one is empowering the kids to do, to make a change and help the bats in a way. So I'll just go through these one by one. The Bat Buddy Explorer Day is the introductory one, and this is what I'm going to go through today. It's 2 hours worth of bat activities and games that the leaders can choose to do. Whether you do part of it or all of it, it's up to you. You can either have a nature mentor go through it and lead that. So it's often the mentors are biologists or people that aren't familiar or know how to speak at a level that's 5 to 12-year-olds, for 5 to 12-year-olds. So feel free to give them this information and these suggested activities and games so that they can adapt their language and their bat biology to the age group that we cater to. The next Explorer Day is the Bat Detective Bat Counts. So that gives the NatureKids a really exciting opportunity to get outside, to explore the night, and to hopefully see the bats themselves. This is where the citizen science comes in. We are trying to get them to be involved in the bat counts. And when we do bat counts, it's bat counts at a specific roost. So that means this photo is of a bat box here. That's where we have a colony of bats. And the families can sit and watch the bats as they come out and then count them. The bat counts occur between June 1st and 21st. And then the second bat count occurs between July 11th and August 5th. This is the pre-pup bat count, so the pups are born during this time period and they're not flying, so you're counting only the females that are flying out. And then the second time period is the females plus the pups that are learning to fly. So theoretically, you should have almost twice as many bats during the second bat count. The challenge for NatureKids is that the bat counts start around, well, they start at sunset, which is in June and July around 9 o'clock. Between 9 and 9:30, the sun sets, depending on the day, and then you count for an hour. So it's very late for little 5-year-olds. So I'm thinking this might be better for maybe the 8 to 12-year-olds. And hopefully the parents will be willing to let them stay up till about 10:30 or so. Special night in the summer. The next one is the Bat Bestie Explorer Day, which is where they get to take environmental action. This is one that we're going to develop this summer and is likely going to be happening next year. Same with the next one, the next Explorer Day. So this is more developing, restoring bat habitat, riparian areas, planting native plants, and so on and so forth. And that more information on that will be coming. And the Bat Champion Explorer Day is giving the group, empowering them to help raise awareness about the importance of bats. So getting them to make posters, build bat education displays, and then putting up maybe something that, you know, it's outside of the ordinary for what NatureKids usually do, but maybe we could organize a bat table at a mall or a children's festival or maybe even at a school. So this is something that we're developing for next year. And this also ties in with Bat Week. I don't know if some of you have heard, but is it October? It's right before Halloween. There's an International Bat Week where all over the States and Canada, especially, we do a lot of awareness that happens around bats. Okay, so we'll start on the Bat Buddies Explorer Day, meeting the bats and the activities that we have. So we've developed, now I wonder if I can do this. I'm gonna try and switch from the PowerPoint to the document. How do I do this? Escape. Bat, citizen, bat ID, no. Oh, I don't know if this is gonna work. Here we go, can you guys see that? The Meet the Bats, Bat Buddy Explorer Day. Christina, yes or no? I can't hear you. Sorry.
No, we can't. It just
Can't see it.
same thing that happened last time.
I might not have to. I might not be able to do this that way.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. So on the website, you'll be able to see the Meet the Bats Explorer Day activities. And this is a 30-page document that you will actually be mailed this document as part of your leader package. And it's got all of the activities that I'm going to be talking about on there with details. So if you're not taking notes or if you don't feel like that, you can always refer to this document that is available. Now, this is where it gets complicated. I might not be able to go back and forth because I think it's going to. Can you see the PowerPoint again?
Yep.
Okay. I think I'm just going to stick to this one as much as I can. Okay. So I'm going to talk through this slideshow. The way that I made it is basically pretending that you have that document and the steps that go through it. So first of all, back to mammals. So for kids, try and go through and figure out what mammals are. Bats have fur. Bats give birth to live young who suckle milk, and they are warm-blooded. And the amazing thing about bats is that they are the only flying mammal in the world. They'll go, what? What about squirrels? Why squirrels? Well, no, they glide. They do not actually flap their wings and fly. In British Columbia, we have at least 15 species of bats, and in the world, there are over 1,200. The list that you see here are the bats that we have in British Columbia. that's a lot for kids to take on. So what we're going to do is we are going to focus on 8 of them. And this is where the bat ID cards that we made up come into play. So this is one of the first activities, is you were going to get in the mail the bat ID cards, which is that on the left-hand side. You just cut them up, or maybe they're already going to be cut up. I'm not sure. Christina can probably say about that. And you also are going to get a poster, the Bats of BC. So for this activity, we have 8 bat species that we're going to focus on. So if you have 8 kids, that works. If you have more than 8, you might have to pair them up. You give them each one of the cards, get them to read it on their own, and then if they could, or with their parents' help, they could tell you the name of the bat and one interesting thing about that bat. And then as they read it, or after they read it, you can try and find it in this poster. So for example, the first one, little brown myotis. So this one, they could say, commonly roost in buildings and bat boxes and colonies up to 2,000 bats. And it is one of the bats that's endangered. So you can go down and try and find out where the little brown is on the poster, and then potentially read, where is the little brown? Read a little bit more about it. There's the big brown. Yuma, Mexican Free-tail Northern. So I hadn't done this already. Anyways, once you find it, you can read more about it, and that's a good way of getting the kids to learn about the different species of bats. I'm not going to go through all of them because of our time constraint, but these are really good for just really quick tips about the different bat species. So bats are nocturnal. This is a really fun little activity. Bats do sleep during the day. They hang upside down. They wake up after sunset, and they fly around and are active at night. So for this one, it's a really simple one where you get all the kids to sit around in a circle, and you get them to put their feet up. And as they do that, you could pretend that, so they're lying down on the ground with their feet up, and it's daytime, so they are sleeping. And this is to get them used to the fact that they're the other way from us. So they're upside down, and then all of a sudden you go, nighttime. And at nighttime, they have to get up and they fly around, but they have to be paying attention because they have to listen for the daytime. So as soon as it's daytime, they have to come together again, go on their backs and put their legs up again. So you can do that a couple times so that they figure out that bats during the daytime, they sleep. So bats have wings. And the interesting thing about bats is that they do have wings on their hands. So this is a great photo, which unfortunately you won't have for the actual presentation, but for your own background, they belong to the order Chiroptera, which means hand, wing. Ptera means wing, sort of like pterodactyls, which are the winged dinosaurs. And chiro means hand, sort of like chiropractors that work with their hands to crack your bones. And bat wings, so if you can see in this, this amazing photo, they do have, their arms are part of their wing. This is their thumb. Can you see the mouse? Christina, can you nod yes or no? Yes, okay, so that's their thumb. And then this is their finger bones, which you can see here. And one thing this is a fruit bat. It is not a microbat that we have around here. But this is a little microbat. So this little puppet is one of the things that you guys are gonna get in your kits. Little finger puppet, you put your finger through there. And it's a great little puppet because it's quite similar to the actual size of bats that we have in British Columbia. So I recommend that you also take a ruler as part of your kit. And you can talk about bat wings and the size of bats with this puppet. So you can see that the thumb on this puppet, and you can see the fingers. And then the interesting thing about this puppet is that it's got a very life size. The wings go from the finger to the ankle, and then from the ankle to the end of the tail, and then up to the ankle and over again. So when they fly, and this is part of the activity, you get them all to stand in a circle again, and you get them to move their leg. You can't see my leg, but move their leg and their arm at the same time. And that's how they can get the idea that they flap their wings that way. They can switch sides and do the other side. And when they catch an insect, when they're hunting, they actually fly along, and then they catch their insect with the tail membrane that they have there, because they do that while they're flying. They catch it, they bring it up, and then they eat it, and then they continue to fly. So when you're playing with kids, it's fun to do that, and then get them to see if they can bring their foot up to their mouth and and they catch the bug, and off they go again. So a fun little activity for that. Okay, hang on a second. The other interesting thing that you can do with the puppet, and the puppet can be named Otis or Lucy for Myotis lucifugus, which is the little brown bat's genus species name. So Otis here is flying along, and to get a drink of water, they actually will not land and drink, so you can't really see that. I'm always moving when I do these things, so it's hard to, with a little screen. Anyways, they actually drink water while they drink and then fly along, which is really unique. It's really dangerous for bats to actually land down low on the ground and take time to drink, because they have a hard time taking off. They can take off, but it's not, they don't have the lift like birds do, because their back leg is part of their wing. So if a bat falls to the ground, they actually have to go over to a tree or a house, a vertical surface, and then climb up, and then get high enough to use gravity to be able to take off and fly. Some bats, if they're healthy and strong, can take off from the ground. But some of them, if they're weak, or if some of them just have a hard time, so they do have to climb up and then fly off. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Now, I don't have the question thing on here, so I should probably, doesn't tell me, chat. Okay. Oh, see, I should have had that open. Any questions? Okay, that's about that. Great. Yes, you get this puppet. Okay, good, good. All right, let me know if there's any more questions. Okay. Let's see this. So how big are bats? So this is another one where you can use your puppet that way. Bats, and you can also use your bat ID cards for this exercise. The biggest bat is the hoary bat, and it is about 40 centimeters big. So you take your ruler and you go, okay, this guy is about 26 centimeters from wingtip to wingtip, and 40 centimeters is about another 10 to add to that. So that's how big the biggest bat that we have in BC is. And the smallest bat is the, let's see if I can find it, the western small-footed Myotis. He is the smallest bat in BC, and he is slightly smaller. Let's see, where do I have it on here? 22 centimeters long. So this guy is 26 centimeters, and you get the kids to look it up. That's 26 centimeters. 22 is right here. So quite a bit, a little bit smaller than this guy. And then how much do they weigh? Sorry, I am going really fast because I'm cautious of the time. The little bats, because there's sort of two ranges. There's the small bats that are like the western small-footed, the little brown bat, and then there's medium bats, which are sort of in between, and then the hoary bat, which is the one that's 40 centimeters long. So the little guys weigh about as much as a loonie, and the big guys weigh as much as a fork. So if you can take that as part of your props, that would be great. And you can also pass this little bat around so that they can see how much they weigh and see if it weighs as much as a fork or as much as a loonie. Fairly realistic in size. Great little puppet. All right, next one. Okay, what do bats need to survive? So, water, food, shelter, and space. And I don't know why the other photos aren't coming up here. Huh, interesting. So water, definitely bats require water in order to survive. And like I said before, they drink while in flight. They don't actually stop at a puddle or anything like that. So they have to be able to have enough of a big enough water body to be able to fly. And now the smaller bats need less of a bigger, blah, blah, blah. Less or a smaller water body than the bigger bats. And there's a little exercise on that one as well. For food, I don't know why my food isn't coming up. There it is. For some reason, it's on timer. So obviously they eat thousands of different insects. A little brown bat in a lab study ate 600 mosquitoes in 1 hour. 600 mosquitoes in 1 hour. But their diversity is quite large in the amount of insects that they eat. So they also eat some arachnids. We have the pallid bat, which is also in your bat ID card, that even eats scorpions. And apparently it is immune to scorpion venom. So the pallid bat is quite a unique species of bat for that reason. Bats also need shelter. So for that, it means a place to roost, which is where they sleep. They also need a place to forage and shelter, so where they find their insects. And a place to, so there's two types of roosts that they use. They roost during the day where they sleep. And then at nighttime, they use night roosts to be able to take breaks between their feeding. So they have a bout of eating, they eat a lot of insects, and then they go upside down, rest for a bit, groom, digest, and then off they go again. So they need those habitats, and then space. So for this activity, we have, if you have a bag that you can use that works, and you can either find these props. So for example, you can either cut these out, or if you have some play figures like a tree or a house or any of the insects that are included, you can certainly use them instead. The idea of this activity is a little bit of, I guess, analogies. So they get to reach in there and pull out something. So here's a water bottle. Okay, so what does a water bottle have to do with bats? Well, can you drink water out of a bottle? Sure, I can drink water out of a bottle. Well, can a bat? No, of course not. So where do they get their water? Well, they get water. You're a puppy. So out of, they need lakes and streams and wetlands to be able to drink some water. So this is a tree. So what do trees have to do with bats? Well, do you think it's food, water, shelter, or space? Well, a tree would be shelter. That's where they can roost. They can find a place to hide in behind the bark, or they can sleep upside down in one of the branches. So that's potentially, it could also host some insects for them to eat. So that's sort of the activity for that. And in the manual, again, it has a list of some of the insects that are on there to be able to explain whether it's food, water, shelter, or space, and how it ties in with the animal. So we have a house. What do you find in a house? Well, it's a place for us to sleep, but what about bats? Do bats have a house? No, but some bats actually do roost in buildings. They roost on the outside, usually, of a building, and it's okay for them to do so, as long as they're not getting inside of the living quarters. Where else would bats find a place to sleep? And that's where you can tie in, well, they use bat boxes, maybe they use trees, maybe they use rocks, maybe under bridges, cliffs, rock faces, and unlike a myth, or not a myth, but you think people or bats live in caves, but they actually don't use caves very much in the summer. They're a little bit too cold, so bats only use caves mostly in the winter when they go in there to hibernate. In the summer, they need other spaces to roost. Any questions on that section? Let me just go back to the chat line here again. Do they hunt together at all or individually? You know, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that. They roost together. So there's several types of roosts. The maternity roosts are all the females that are pregnant. They roost together. The males do not help with raising the young. So there's maternity roosts, which are usually females with pups, although some species, the females are lone. They don't gather together. And then the males usually are lone roosters. So whether they hunt together, I mean, in a maternity colony, they all leave together to go hunting. And I don't know if they have any strategies for hunting together per se. I don't know if Orville or who else is that out there? Ashley might know the answer to that. I don't know of any research about that.
It's Orville. I've never seen anything that suggests that they hunt communally, but as single individuals, they might concentrate in areas with very high insect density, like wetlands or riparian areas. So it might appear that they're all hunting together just because there's a high level of insects or food availability.
Thanks, Orville. Okay, so sound. I wonder how I'm going to do this. I'm getting distracted by the questions. Maybe I'll hold the questions until later, but keep writing them on there. Okay, so what's for dinner is the next activity. So for this one, just in general, so that you know, there's different size bats, as we talked about earlier. And in general, the smaller bats will catch the smaller insects, such as midges, which are the small flies, caddisflies, mosquitoes. And then the larger bats, such as the hoary bat, will eat the larger moths and the larger hard-bodied beetles. The pallid bat is the one that's kind of unique because it hunts. It doesn't hunt up here flying insects, but it actually gleans insects off the ground, including things like centipedes and scorpions. So for this activity, it's a little bit like musical chairs, but with no music. But the idea is that you cut out this activity sheet. So you cut it here, and then you also cut it up and down. We forgot to put the scissors in there. And this is more for a larger group. If you only have, say, 5 kids, then I would go to just little brown myotis and a midge. And then you put out so you give each of your kid the little brown myotis section of the card, which is this one over here. And then you put your midges out. Where's the midge? Here's the midge, the little midge fly, this guy. And you put them out on the floor. So 5 of them if you have 5 kids. And they just walk around the flies. And you can say, okay, foraging time, so they're walking around. And then you say dinner time, and then they have to sit beside one of the midges. And then you take one of the midges away. So then there's only 4 midges, and there's 5 bats flying around. So then you go, okay, foraging time, so they fly around all of the cards. And then you yell out, dinner time, and they catch their fly, and they have to sit beside it. If a bat did not get a midge, then they have to go and sit in the roost to rest for a bit, and then so on and so forth. If you have more kids, then you can make it a little bit more complicated and say add the hoary bat and some large moths. So then for that one, the kids that have the hoary bat have to look for the large moth to sit beside, versus the little browns have to look for the midge. So it makes it a little bit more complicated, and I think would work better for the older kids. If you have younger kids, go for just the simple little brown and the midges, so that they don't get too confused. But this activity could last quite a bit. If you use all of them, then they can get an idea of what bat eats what kind of insect. Although that's very specific, so just sort of to go back a little bit, little brown myotis does not just eat midges. They also eat mosquitoes and a whole range of other insects. But for the sake of this exercise, it's just to get them to think about some of the insects that they do eat. Okay, let's see. Shelter. So this one is one of the, actually it is the one activity where you get to walk around and look for some habitat where the bats might roost. So in general, if you have an area of natural habitat, whether it's a riparian area or whether it's a rocky cliff area, or I think those are sort of the two main ones. If you have an area with big trees or an area with rocks and cliffs, or if you have a bridge, those are areas where bats could potentially be roosting. If you get everybody to see if they can poke their thumb, say they find a tree, if there's a space where your thumb can fit in, then potentially a bat could use it to roost in. It needs to be deep though, like say 30 centimeters, so that when they go, if it's a hole to roost in, they need to be able to get in. And so there's your ruler again, to be able to get in and find shelter. So the key thing for this activity is you want them to be able to find shelter from predators. So are there any owls at night that might be able to get them, or any cats during the day that could get them, or other predators that could climb up a tree. So they want to find shelter from predators. They want to find shelter from the weather, so a place where storms wouldn't get them, or if it's really sunny and hot, you don't want them to roast, so they want a shady spot. If it's kind of cool, maybe they want somewhere warm. I think for that activity, again, I have a whole bunch of examples of where they might roost. And it is a walk, so it's more walking around and trying to figure out, where do you think a bat would roost? Rock roosts, if you find any cracks or crevices in cliffs, cavities along screes or talus slopes, along riverbanks, if you find any holes or cracks along riverbanks as well, in muddy banks, sometimes there is a species of bat that uses those. Bridge roosts, of course, if you have any overpasses where you could walk underneath safely without getting in trouble with vehicles and see some cracks in there. If they're, again, at least 30 centimeters deep, potentially there could be a bat there. You could look for guano droppings, which are little tiny, they almost look like mice droppings. If you see any underneath, maybe they're in there. And then building roosts, of course, there's at least three species of bats that roost in buildings. So looking for potentially old buildings like a barn that could have some bats. Okay, next one. Water. So this is another activity where you need a measuring tape and, again, your bat ID cards. And there's 4 species there that are part of this activity to figure out how big of a water body do bats need to be able to get a drink of water. So if you have your Western small-footed, which is the smallest bats are slower flyers and are very maneuverable. So if you have a pond that is only a meter long, and this is where you start at one end and you start going, okay, how big is a meter? That Western small-footed myotis could get a drink if it was a pond, or say a trough that's that big. Little browns need bigger spaces, so 3 meters, and you stretch it out to see, okay, so what kind of a creek would be that big? Big brown bats need 15 meters of open water, and the hoary bat, which is it is the biggest bat in British Columbia, is a very fast flyer. So when it's coming in for a drink of water, it needs a longer expanse to be able to drink and then fly off, 30 meters. So in that case, you're looking at bigger waters of body, like a larger wetland or a lake. That's that one. Okay, echolocation. So I don't know if you guys can hear if I play. This is what echolocation sounds like. No. You guys hear that? Great. So echolocation is the way that bats hunt at night. They have really good eyesight at night, but in addition to that, they also use echolocation. So that is a series of sound waves that they emit, and then they bounce back and they're listening for the echo of that sound wave in order to find their prey. So we have 3 activities for that one. The first one involves a slinky, which hopefully some of you have in your kids' play areas. So for slinkies, you get one person to be your bat and the second person to be your moth. You give your bat, I'm going to pretend to be the bat, the slinky, and you say, okay, you're going to try and capture the moth. So when you do that, you emit these clicks, which we cannot hear because they're very high-pitched. And we're going to pretend that the slinky is the sound wave going out. Those clicks, click, 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 that's going out. Now, so let's pretend that the bat's flying along and it's going click, 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 bounce, click, 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 it's a wall, it's a wall, it's a wall, it's a wall, it's listening, oh, it's a wall, woo, I better fly the other way. So it flies the other way. And then say it's a person. So it goes click, 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 bounce, it's a person, it's a person, it's a person. Ah, it's a person, I want to fly the other way. And then there's the moth. Click, 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 bounce, bounce. It's a moth, it's a moth, it's a moth. Ooh, it's a moth. So, and a bat can figure out what kind of insect it is just by listening to that echo. It can figure out how big it is, whether it's hard-bodied or soft-bodied. It can figure out if it's flying up, down, left, or right, how fast it's going, and whether it wants to actually follow it and hunt it down to eat it. So that's one exercise. The other exercise is really simple, and you just need your hands, and that is to be able to feel what echolocation sound waves feel like, sort of. It's just an exercise to I'll just do it. And so you get your kids to do that sort of a P, but without the E. And then you put your hands in front, and you get the kids to move their hands in and out while they're doing the and you can feel the air on your hands, and you can feel it bouncing back. So if you want to try that, and then you get them to move their hands out up as far as they can, and see how far they can get before they can still feel the bounce back, and how far they can get, and then they can't feel it anymore. And that's a way of them to actually feel what the sound, what waves, I mean, in this case it's air, but it's what the sound waves of echolocation would feel like. And then the third one, is this one? The third one is the bat and moth game. So this one is like the Marco Polo game. So you need one person is your bat, and you blindfold them, and the second person and everybody else are moths. And so you set out your boundaries for your game. Maybe get the parents to stand around so that they can be the boundaries, and then your bat has to say, I think I said click or bat, whatever you want to say it. I'm sorry, just a sec. Let me see what I said. Catch the moth, echolocation. Bat, bat, bat. And the other people just say moth, moth, moth. Ooh, there you go. So you say bat, 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 and whenever they say bat, 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 all the moths have to say moth, 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 and they have to try and catch that moth. Now the rules for this is that all the moths have to reply with moth, moth, moth every time the bat says bat, bat, bat. And depending on your age group, you might want to say, okay, if you have little ones, you can only take 3 steps so that they don't run away completely from the bat and the bat is trying to catch them while they're blindfolded. So that's a really fun one to play. Okay. Hibernation and migration. So for this activity, so a little bit of background. Bats, out of the 15 species of bats that we have in British Columbia, the majority of them do hibernate nearby from their summer ranges. Although specific studies haven't been done, the theory is that they stay fairly close. 3 species of the bats migrate. Some of them migrate south all the way down to the United States or Mexico. One bat, the silver-haired bat, migrates from northern BC to southern BC or maybe northern US and then hibernates, so it uses a combination. Now, bats, so this is the other part. Do I have this here? Here we go. Excuse me. So I'm just conscious of the time. It is 7:30, so it's been an hour. I probably have another 10 slides or so. If any of you need to leave, I guess that's okay. If you can stick around, that would be great. But we're recording this, so you can always watch it later. Okay, hibernation. So for this one, I think the best way to talk about it is to get the kids to first find their heartbeat. So if you can get them to look up and then find their throat, the middle of the throat, and then go over to find their carotid pulse. So if they can get their heartbeat, that's great. Maybe if they can't, because with kids I know sometimes it's difficult, get them to do like 30 jumping jacks, and then their heartbeat will go up a little bit more, and then you can, most likely they'll be able to find it at that point. But the whole point of that is just to see, okay, when your heartbeat is at rest, it's quite slow, and then when you get going, what happens to your heartbeat, and see if they can count it or feel it. The interesting thing about bats is that their resting heart rate is about 100 to 200 beats per minute, which is the heartbeat of a child when they're doing after they've done some exercise. It can be quite similar. Versus when a bat has been flying around hunting, their heart rate goes up to 1,000 beats per minute. So for that, another way of doing it is if you just do your heartbeats on your chest, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 5 and 6 and 7. So for a bat, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 would be their resting heart rate. when they're exercising, their 1,000 beats per minute means they have to do 16 beats in 1 second. So you can get them to try and do 16 of these in 1 second, which is impossible. But that way they'll get the idea of what that means. And then when they go into hibernation, they actually lower their heartbeat. Did I screw this up? Heart rate, it should be, I don't know why I didn't put it on there. 5 degrees Celsius. That is not, I don't know why I didn't put that on there. Anyways, their heartbeat goes down to 5 beats per minute, which is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, all the way to 11. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So every 11 seconds, they have a heartbeat. And that's, we're going to have to fix that on this. But that means that their heartbeat is very slow when they're hibernating. Their body temperature also goes down. So when a bat is awake and active, their temperature is about 40 degrees Celsius, which is just 3 degrees Celsius above a human body temperature. And when they're hibernating, their temperature drops down to 5 degrees Celsius, which is about the temperature of your fridge, which is pretty impressive. So when they're coming out of hibernation, they have to shiver for about 30 minutes. And their heartbeat goes from 1 every 11 seconds to start to warm up to be able to do the regular heartbeat. So it takes them 30 minutes or so to warm up from hibernation in order to become active. And this is one of the interesting things about bats, in that you want to not disturb them when they're hibernating. So if you find any bats in caves, get out of there, because you don't want to disturb them when they're sleeping, trying to conserve their energy so that they can survive the winter without eating and without drinking all winter. For what? 4 or 5 months without anything like that. So, all right, life cycle of a bat. So in here as well, you will have a sheet of paper that has the life cycle of the bat, and it's there on the screen. So for that activity, first you take out your life cycle of a bat, and you just go through it. I just have it in black and white, but you go through the spring, what happens in the spring. The bats return, or they wake up from hibernation. They're hungry and thirsty. They want to go hunting. The females are pregnant, and they want to find their roost for the summer. And then in the summer, the females gather in their maternity colonies. They are pregnant, and the pups are born. The pups take about 3 to 4 weeks to mature, and that's when they start to learn how to fly. And then in the fall, the pups are all grown up. They're about 3 to 4 months old. They can fly, they can hunt, they're weaned, and they're off flying around. In fall, they move around a lot. They're more on their own, and they are also looking for a place to hibernate, or they're migrating south. Now in the fall also, if they're a year old or older, studies are saying that they mate at about, after their second summer. So they mate in the fall. And then in the winter, they are either hibernating for 13 out of our 15 species, or they head south and they are awake all winter where there's insects to be had. For this activity, this one's more of a play out, play along, and I think it will work better for the 5, 6-year-old, 7, 8-year-olds maybe even. So you get them all to sit in a circle, and I have the play along of what happens. So you go through all of the stages of that. I'm not going to go through it in detail because I just went through the stages, but it's basically you can pretend that you're lying down with your feet up, and that's hibernation time, and then it's winter time, it's springtime, so you start to warm up and you shiver. You start to fly around, you leave your roost, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you can pretend to hunt, and just do that whole play along for that whole, for the whole season. So that's that one. And then one that I didn't talk about for the beginning, but one of our requirements for the funders is that we do an evaluation of how much the kids and the families know about bats before and after. So as a warm-up activity, before, as people are arriving to your event, you can hand out this bat quiz and see, get them to do true or false, see how much they know about them. They can hand it in, and then you do your program, and then at the end of the program, you hand the quizzes back out again. And then instead of having them circle, maybe you can have them do a square around what they think is right. Tell them, don't erase your answer from before, just leave it. So that then afterwards, when you get them back, you can see how much they've learned. Now, in this bat quiz, I have things in here that you might not cover in your presentation, but all of the answers you can certainly go through the answers with them, and that's part of the learning activity, are in your manual as well. So one of the ones that is really important to cover with them is you should never touch a bat with your bare hands, which is true. You should never touch a bat. About less than 1 in 1,000 bats do carry rabies, and it is carried through being bitten or scratched. So it's really important that the kids know that they should never ever touch a bat. If they see a bat, they should leave it alone, and they should tell an adult, and then an adult can also leave it alone, or call the 1-800 toll-free line the community bat program has to get directions on what to do with the bat if it's injured, or if it just needs to be left alone. And most of the time it's just leave it alone and make sure that no kids or pets can come into contact with it to prevent rabies. I'm just going to check my questions there in case you guys have any questions. Where did that go? Chat. Okay. Okay, no questions on that. Great. And all the answers are on there, as I said. Okay, now how many of you, how do we do this? So the last 3 slides are on the bat count itself. Christina, should we keep going or should I stop? I don't know if you could unmute yourself.
I think it's good to keep going. If people have to leave, that's cool. And otherwise it just remains, part of the archive. So if you just keep going, I'll keep recording. Okay,
sure. Thanks, Christina. Sorry for going over time, guys. There's a lot to cover. Okay, so bat counts. So this is the second Explorer Day that you could do, or potentially you could combine them and do, start at 7 o'clock in the evening and do the meet the bats, and then stay for the 9 o'clock starting of your bat counts. So bat counts, the main thing about bat counts is the experience of the kids to be able to get out there at nighttime, which they rarely get to stay up that late, and actually see the bats and experience having them fly by them. In order for the data to be used provincially in the bat monitoring, which happens through the BC Community Bat Program, the dates to count would be between June 1st and 21st, or July 11th and August 5th. If that's not a possibility, no problem. Do it at another time. That's fine. I think the main thing is to get the kids out there to actually experience and see the bats. If you can do it during those windows, even better. So the other thing that is important about bat counts is that you're not just counting bats that are just flying around at random near a lake, for example. You want to make sure that you're at a roost where you know there are bats. So that might be a bat box, or it might be a building where, you know, there's bats in the attic or bats roosting on the side of the house or something like that. And for that, if you don't know where there's a bat roost, you can get a hold of me. Just shoot me an email, and we'll try and hook you up with either a bat roost in the area or the coordinator for the community bat program in that area who might know where some of the bat roosts are. How do you prepare for it? So as I said, pick your site, make sure it's a roost. Usually these are maternity colonies where there's females with pups. Pick an evening that works for you. Sometimes the weather might not cooperate and you might have to cancel. Bats are fair weather creatures, so if it's colder than 12 degrees Celsius and if it's raining or windy, it's unlikely that they will be coming out, which is kind of nice for doing the actual bat count, because if it's nice, it's nice. Okay, so gather your materials. Oh, first you need to figure out when the bat count actually will start. So if you go to this website, sunriseandsunset.com, you can enter your location and your date when you plan to do this, the bat count, and that will give you the time of the sunset. And that's when you start your bat count. So you want to make sure you print out your Bat Watch survey, which is on the website, the NatureKids website as well. It's got full instructions on how to do it, excuse me, and it also has the forms. I've put together 2 different data forms. One is for the kids and one is for the leaders to summarize that information. What else? You want to arrive early, usually earlier than the kids, to make sure that you know where all the roosts are and where you might sit the kids. It's best to locate yourself so that if the bats are up here and coming out, there's blue sky behind so that you can see the silhouettes of the bats coming out, especially as it gets darker. It's harder and harder to see them if you have a dark tree in behind, for example. But if you can get blue sky in behind, it's a lot easier to count. Once the kids arrive, make sure you go through the safety and the bat count rules. So for that, it's just ensuring that the kids know that some of the bats might fly close to them. Bats have really good, sorry, just a moment. Bats have really good eyesight and, of course, their echolocation. So as they're coming out of their roost, they can see you, but you're there before you weren't there, right? There's no, they were expecting a clear path, and if you're there, that's something new for them. So sometimes I have had some people that had the bats land right out their laps just because the bats weren't expecting you to be there. So make sure the kids know to stand still, not to do this, because that's more of a chance for the bats to fly, to hit into them. You want to make sure that you're also not super close to the exit point, because then that decreases your possibility or the chances of them actually crashing into you. So you want to be, 5 to 15 meters away from the exit point. If the exit point is really low, so if the bat box is really low, you want to be even further away, because then they don't have a lot of room to drop and fly. So give the bats space also so they can maneuver and get out. Some of the kids I've had in the past do get bored after 20, 30 minutes, and this is a 1-hour bat count. Something that I've yet to prepare is maybe some coloring sheets or activity sheets that the kids can do if they're waiting for their siblings. If they need to get their jelly beans out, just get them to move over a little bit and they can do some jumping jacks and then come back. Hand out pencils and the bat count sheets for the kids. I made the bat count sheets hopefully a little bit more fun so that they can fill out, they have sort of, they feel like little scientists, and they need to fill in some information about where they are and when they started counting. What else? The other thing that I'd love is if you could assign one adult who does not have really young kids to be your key counter. So that way you can compare what the kids counted versus what the adult counted, and see how close were they to how accurate they were. Let's see what else. You'll need to have a chair or something comfortable to sit in. Make sure people have that, or a blanket to sit on. Wear warm clothes, or get them to wear layers. It does get chilly once the sun sets, even if it's hot outside. What else? If you have a thermometer, that always helps. We're sending out clickers, 1 clicker per club, I believe, is what we were able to have a budget for. So that would be for your adult. And then the kids have the sheet of paper that they can do their little notches to count the bats. So this is what I've had before, kids doing bat counts, and they just do little lines per bat that they see, and then they add it up at the end of the night. So it's quite exciting for them to do that. Let everybody know when you start counting, so the time of sunset, and then ask the kids to make sure they let you know when they see the first bat, because that's another important time that you need to record in the data sheet, is the time of the first bat. So you've got your time of sunset, which is when you start counting, and then the time of the first bat. And then you just count bats as they emerge. Depending on the roost that you have, sometimes you'll have like 10 bats coming out at the same time, and then sometimes it'll be just 1, and then a little lull, and then a whole bunch again. So it just really depends on the roost that you have and that you're monitoring. Then when 1 hour is up, or when it's too dark to see, if it's a really cloudy night, sometimes you can't do an hour because it just gets too dark. So just make sure you note the time if it wasn't an hour after you started. Gather everybody up, get everybody to add up all of their tally marks. And in the data sheet, I put a space for you, the leader, the data sheet, to be able to write everybody's tally. So, you know, John, 25, Krista, 35, whatever, you know, that way you know how many people you had and how many totals you had. And then you add them all up and you take the average. In the data sheet, there's a section for the total counts. I wonder if I can do that. I just wanted to show you I don't know if we have time for that. Oh, don't go away. Here you go. Bat ID cards, bat detective instructions. Here we go. Can you see that yet? Maybe I have to share it.
Oh, I can see it. It's good.
See it? Okay. So this is the bat count sheet for the kids. They can fill out their name, the location of the bat count, what type of roost it is, what the weather is like, whether it's rainy or windy, or the temperature. And this is where they do their little tally marks, and they can add it all up, and they put their total number on the second page, and the time when you stopped counting the bats. Do you know what species is roosting here? Sometimes you guys might know what species it is already. If you don't know what species it is, let me know, and I can send you some information on how to collect bat guano. And then the bat guano can be sent in for DNA testing to figure out what species it is. And if this is a roost that you're going to continue to monitor, or if somebody's going to continue to monitor, then it's always a good idea to figure out what species it is. The other way of figuring out your species is through acoustic monitoring, which would work if you are doing it with another mentor that already does bat counts. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Tell us something you learned about bats, draw the bat roost. So this is just something to keep them occupied if they get bored. And then the count for the data sheet for the leaders is of course more complicated. we need to get official permission from the landowner. If you're at a private landowner location where they have a roost, we actually need to get a signature of the landowner, and this is the part where all that sort of officially gets recorded. Make sure they agree that it's okay that we submit the data to the BC Minister of Environment for long-term data monitoring. And pretty self-explanatory, the roost type, the location, if you have a UTM location, or the address, and then we can look up the UTM location. This is the leaders part. Sorry about that. If I can numb that. So this is the section of the data sheet where you can enter all of your kids' results, and then you divide it by the number to get the average. Put the average, and then here is the number that whoever had the hand clicker. So the hand clickers are really amazing to be able to, so these are like, I should have had one out, but I don't. That you can just do a clicking to figure sorry. I don't know how to turn this off, just a minute. Sorry about that. The other phone. So the hand clicker is a really accurate way of counting the bats instead of having the little clicks. And then this is more of this would be where you record the actual information. So the count date, June 21st. The rain code, so you figure out what the rain code is going to be like. So for example, if you had no rain, then you put a little number 1. If you had some drizzle, fine drops visible on the ground, then you put a number 4 there, and so on and so forth. For the cloud code, this is the information here. So whether it's clear or all the way to thunderstorms to rain. And if you get that type of weather all of a sudden, still count it, put it in there so that we know that you tried doing the count, but it perhaps didn't work because halfway through your count, all of a sudden it started to thunderstorm. Wind code, same thing, calm, light breeze, all the way to windy, small trees are moving. If you have a thermometer, that would be great to know the temperature, because as I said, bats are fair weather creatures, and if it's colder than 12 degrees, we find that the number of bats that come out are significantly lower. Start time at sunset, the time the first bat came out. Sometimes bats will take 15 to 20 minutes to come out, depending on the species of bat. Some of them come out right at sunset, or if it's cloudy, it's dark enough for them and they figure they can come out. Some of them are really light sensitive and come out a little bit later when it's darker. So this is another key piece of information to gather. Your end time, about an hour afterwards. The total number of bats that you counted with the clicker, and then the total number of bats averaged by the kids, and then any comments that you might have. Any questions on the data sheets? Let's see if I can find the chat again. Okay. Hopefully that is clear as mud. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to email me or call me, and I can help walk you through the data sheets. Also, like I said, if you're looking for a place to do the bat count, get a hold of me if you don't have a spot yet, and I'll try and hook you up with a roost or with somebody that might be able to help you with that in your region. I think that brings us to the end.
Do you want to just tell them about the cool thing about the detectors that we have as
yes! The detectors! Where did they go? Here they are. So we had somebody donate some old bat detectors to NatureKids, which is great. So these are older units, but they work great. If you're doing a bat count, let me know, and I can mail you one of these with some instructions, which I'm still developing. But basically, you just turn it on. All these buttons have to be set to a certain, where's the camera? To a certain setting, and I'll send you a cheat sheet which says where to set all of these buttons. And then you just turn it on the side here. And then this button over here will change the frequency which it is detecting. So bats, our human hearing goes up to about 20 kilohertz. So if you set this to 20 kilohertz, you will be able to talk into it and hear it. But bats usually echolocate. Their clicking is at a higher frequency, higher than 20 kilohertz. So if you change that, hang on, I'm doing this backwards, so I can't see what I'm doing. So if you set it to about 50 or so, 50, and you can't hear my fingers do this, but if I do this, you can, hang on, I have to turn it up higher. So what this does is it makes it takes the high frequency calls and makes it into a frequency that you can hear. So if there's a bat clicking away, can you hear that, Christina? You should, I don't know if you can hear it because it's,
Yeah, I can hear, yep.
You guys are so far away. But if a bat is clicking, the kids will be able to hear it fly by doing echolocation, which is really interesting. So these are little, they were once upon a time really, really key technology, but they are no longer. So we've got them, so we can use them. And the kids can hear it, which is very exciting. Okay. Let's see. I can share this again. And I think that was, okay.
So I think the only question that got missed was just Natasha's question about audio clips.
Okay. I don't have any audio clips of actual crunching. I think that's what I read. But I do have the audio clips of what echolocation sounds like. So we could certainly put the links into the website, and then you would be able to download it and somehow record it. Well, if you have access to internet while you're out in the field, then you could access those websites. Otherwise, it would have to be a recording that you could put on your phone or something. Yeah. Anything else? Any other questions, anybody? I think we're good. All right, Christina?
Thank you so much. That was fantastic.
No problem. Sorry it was went overtime there.
Oh, it's fine. It's really great to have this all recorded so people can watch it afterwards and just have it for our records. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And I'm thinking that for next year, once we develop the stewardship section and the action section, that we'll do another mini webinar or just put it out there because of things for other activities to do for next year. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Great resource. I think you did a great job of developing it and a great job of presenting it here tonight too. So thank you.
Thanks, Orville.
Yeah, just a great job, Paula and Christina. Thank you so much, you guys. That was really exciting, and I can hardly wait for the group to get started.
Great.
All right. Well, I will put this up on the website, and then hopefully next week I'll start mailing out the packages so that I know Comox, for example, is trying to do it May 25th. So just making sure everybody gets it in time.
Mm-hmm. That's really soon.
That's really soon.
Did you receive the bat puppets and everything already?
Yeah, we're good to go. So I'll just
Okay,
print
great.
everything out and send it out.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I know I zoomed through a lot of the bat biology, but it's a lot of it is in here, so that's always available for reference. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.
Have a good night. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you. Thanks, Paula. Great.
Bye.